caste and race have been linked together since the inception of the word caste. Though the caste system stems from the ancient Hindu scripture codified in the Manusmriti or Laws of Manu, caste-based discrimination has taken on plural and varied forms in social and cultural practices across space and time. So how does Sikhi understand caste and race? The new report by the Sikh Research Institute, 10th in the State of the Panth series, aims to understand caste and race within a Sikh worldview. The report analyzes caste and race from the Gurmat or Guru's way perspective based on Bani, Tariq, and Rahit. Supporting the report findings is a global survey of more than 683 self-identified Sikhs from 19 countries that provides insights into how Sikhs understand caste and race in relation to Sikhi, and how they consider casteist and anti-casteist practices concerning discriminatory expressions of power, identity, and pride. In the Bani, or wisdom section, the report explores the power of the foundational declaration of Sikhi, IkOankar, to transcend the dichotomies and divisions that caste and race embed as societal hierarchies. It also examines how specific castes are invoked in the Guru Granth Sahib, which is the Sikh spiritual canon, religious text, charter, or manifesto, in ways that empower people of caste-oppressed backgrounds to subvert their caste status by understanding virtuous behavior, remembrance, and a loving relationship with the divine as the true spiritual currency. Bani shows us how caste and its categories are redefined and reframed to reject casteist divisions, the caste system as a whole, and the notion of purity and pollution it relies on. Rather than being caught up in worldly paradigms of caste hierarchy, the fortunate seekers are in a deep and intimate relationship with IkOankar, imbued with IkOankar, and in constant reflection on the Sabad or word of wisdom. Through this relationship, the seeker can free themselves, their companions, and their lineage. This is a direct subversion of the impact of caste on ideas of community and lineage, in which the understanding is that caste is passed down and that certain company can be either polluting or purifying. Those in a relationship with IkOankar are free from these constraining paradigms because they serve the wisdom and reflect on the essence of the wisdom. Their honor and caste become the eternal Nam, or identification with IkOankar, the One. Their deeds, duties, and disciplines become eternal love and devotion for the One. They feel the grace and are forgiven for any transgressions because they have made an effort to see no otherness. The social constructs of caste are eliminated for a new paradigm of IkOankar, Nam, love, eternality, and grace. The Twarik, or history section, traces and analyzes how Guru Nanak Sahib addressed caste through the development, institutionalization, and practical applications of oneness. It also outlines a relationship between caste, power, and history more generally, with the intention to highlight and support Sikh Dalit's calls to make our understanding of history more comprehensive and inclusive, while filling in gaps where historical omissions occur. Lastly, this section covers the complexities of anti-caste resistance and discrepancies between precept and practice through time and context over hundreds of years, covering the Guru period, the Khalsa Raj, the Sikh Empire, and the Sikhs in the Indian state. caste in Sikh history is complex. It requires a historical approach that does not reduce Sikhi to the common casteist practices of the day, nor overdetermine Sikhi as wholly uprooting casteism throughout history. The report argues that it is useful to recognize that Sikh practice, social structure, and revolution were real and powerful forces that fought caste-based injustice. However, issues of caste hierarchy have continued and been camouflaged in many ways that still require challenging today. The lessons from the Guru period always have the active potential to be evoked. Lastly, in the Rahat, or lifestyle section, the report looks at how Sikh codes of conduct institutionally address and reject divisions based on caste and race. It also offers an overview of global lived realities by focusing on India and the top 5 diasporic Sikh communities worldwide. It looks at how these communities resist casteist and racist legislation or use legal means through which to address casteist and racist discrimination in the workplace and beyond. Notably, while casteist practices and the resistance of casteism differ regionally, commonalities arise. Issues relating to caste and race are frequently invisibilized by groups in so-called higher positions of power, the groups that are perceived and deemed closer to purity and whiteness. These issues are actively highlighted and resisted by groups in so-called lower positions who experience discrimination from the former. Caste consciousness and its associated forms of resistance and struggle are often influenced by caste positions and relationship to power. From citizenship, marriage, Gurdwara spaces, leadership positions, education, institutional and political power, and employment, caste is embedded into public and private life in intersectional ways and requires attention within the Sikh community. The supporting survey reflects current understandings of caste and race within the global Sikh community. The majority of respondents, 87%, believe that Sikhi is both anti-casteist and anti-racist. A slightly smaller majority of respondents, 76%, said that they personally identify as both anti-casteist and anti-racist. The majority of respondents also said that spirituality, religion, family life, or cultural norms most inform their practice on caste and race at large. The majority of respondents believe that the following scenarios are casteist: caste-specific gurdwaras, Sikh places of learning and worship that both do and do not bar other castes from entering, displaying caste pride in song lyrics, and institutions that do not have diverse caste representation in staff or leadership positions. A larger majority of respondents, 92%, believe that drawing conclusions about a person based on their caste is casteist. In comparison, a smaller majority of respondents, 76%, believe that asking people about their caste is casteist. There was no majority consensus regarding one's ideal relationship with caste. Wrapping up the report are recommendations to help individuals and institutions better understand the Sikh stance on caste and race and address disparities in precept and practice. Recommendations for individuals include: first, seek guidance from Bani to understand how caste is invoked in Bani, generally and specifically. Reflect on the subversions of caste identity, notions of purity and pollution, as well as when caste is acknowledged and for what purpose. Second, Locate precedents from Sikh history for guidance on living out equality principles. Recognize how the Gurus addressed caste and race historically. Reflect on how you relate to caste history and claims of pride and hierarchy that Bani denounces and transcends. Third, recognize that Sikh practice, social structure, and revolution are real and powerful forces that fought caste injustice, but also issues of caste hierarchy have proliferated and camouflaged in many ways that still require being challenged and uprooted today. Fourth, understand that despite casteist practice differing regionally, commonalities arise, including that issues relating to caste and race are frequently invisibilized by groups in so-called higher positions of power, groups perceived and deemed closer to purity and whiteness, and are actively highlighted and resisted by groups in so-called lower positions who experience discrimination from the former. And finally, reflect on how to practice caste consciousness and its associated forms of resistance and struggle, especially if your caste is one of privilege and power. Recommendations for institutions include: first, create policies to ensure anti-racist and anti-casteist practices and accountability structures. Second, make your stance on caste and race public and align with other like-minded organizations and activists. Third, avoid using surnames on ballots or when selecting a board, but do actively try toward more caste representation. And finally, support those who may not have access to education, money, or resources necessary to occupy a position of power. The report contributes significantly to the global discourse about Sikh notions of caste and race. It supports its findings with Gurmat-based resources and opinions from members of the Panth itself. To read and download the full caste and race report, visit sikhri.org/SOTP.